Well, you know, the weekend comes along and something else comes along, too. It's Michael Snyder. He's got some movie reviews for you with his Culture Blast report. Hello, Michael.
Well, howdy, Alex. And yes, something wicked this way comes, and it's the movie schedule for a holiday weekend. One of the weakest. Wicked week. That's the word I got to use, but there we plunge in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's kick it off with probably the best of the bunch, The Light Between Oceans, which is a heartbreaker and a period piece set right after World War I, off the coasts of, I guess, Australia, and maybe there's a little New Zealand thrown in there. And it essentially deals with a veteran played by Michael Fassbender, who is kind of feeling a little, I guess, post-traumatic stress disorder after fighting in the front lines. And he goes to this area where he takes on a job as a lighthouse keeper. This is a very remote island called Janus Rock. And it's, you know, if you take the boat, there's a village and civilization of sorts. But he needs to get away. He's the only guy there. And I suppose he feels comfortable all by himself away from the noise of war. But there is a lovely young woman who is, I guess, the daughter of the school headmaster in the nearby town, and they tumble for one another. She's played by Alicia Vikander, seemingly everywhere. I kind of love this idea. A love story between the mutant master of magnetism, Magneto, and a sentient killer robot. Yeah, you remember Ex Machina? Remember her in Ex Machina? Anyway, no, they play real people, and they're pretty wonderful. And they're both out on the island alone, and what's a couple to do, a young couple, a frisky young couple, but make a kid. But they have problems making a kid. There is Sturm und Drang. And then, one day, a rowboat washes up near the lighthouse, and there's a little baby there. The plot thickens. Well, obviously, this child has parents, and the dispensation of the parents would be a spoiler. Needless to say, there is a third party involved in this relationship other than the baby, and she's played by Rachel Weisz. So what we have here is something that gets pretty soapy and melodramatic, but the performances and the sweepingly beautiful cinematography of the windswept lighthouse and such carry the day, and the film. I kind of, I had that kind of Nicholas Sparks vibe after a while on this one because, oh, the tragedy, oh, the angst, and oh, the love. But Fassbender and Vikander and Weisz are so good that they sort of wash away any of that stuff. Sheer acting power. There's some supporting work, by the way, since it is down under. We see the great Aussie actor Brian Brown in a role. It's a beautiful thing to look at, and maybe it's a date movie for some. Maybe that's the way to sort of couch it. But The Light Between Oceans was not offensive. It was just a little treacly. Now, something that was not treacly at all is Morgan. It's a sci-fi film directed by Luke Scott, son of Ridley Scott, the man behind Alien and many other memorable movies in genre and blockbuster form. And in this film, a tough corporate troubleshooter played by Kate Mara is sent into the boondocks to check in on a scientific experiment involving an artificial life form, or if you prefer, a lab-grown human in teenage girl form, and that's the title character, Morgan. Holy Frankenstein, is man playing God again? Well, yeah, look, this is not Ex Machina. Speaking of Ex Machina and Alicia Vikander, last year's movie about artificial intelligence in female form, outrageously good movie of ideas, beautifully executed, and incredibly scary and wonderful. And for that matter, this movie's not The Machine, which was a taut little British film in 2013 about a program to build super soldiers at a secret government location that goes haywire. There are aspects of both of those films in this. This is not as good. Anya Taylor-Joy, who was a revelation in The Witch, this weird, super effective, low-budget horror movie set in colonial New England, she plays Morgan. And again, Kate Mara is the troubleshooter. And they have loaded the cast with talented people that you kind of expect in these roles. Toby Jones plays another scientist doctor type behind this particular project. And his partner in this is the great Asian actress Michelle Yeoh, former action hero in the Far East. And then we also get Jennifer Jason Leigh, Rose Leslie from Game of Thrones and other great work as another one of the doctors, and Paul Giamatti as a psychiatrist who's brought in to check out what's wrong with Morgan. Look, there are plot holes, there's odd contrivances, pseudoscience that's addressed with what some in my crew called hand-wavium. Morgan just doesn't work. Third act problems, and compared to these other films, no. All right, moving along. The Ninth Life of Louis Drax, or Louis Drax, is a strange little film that concerns the schism between fantasy and reality, dream and reality, that is dogging a psychologist played by Jamie Dornan of, whatever, 50 Shades of Grey fame and other various projects, who has suffered a near fatal fall during a picnic with his parents at Land's End in San Francisco. The kid is prone to accidents throughout his life. He's getting knocked around, shocked at electrical outlets, skipping, tripping, and falling. And this could be his ninth life, according to his mom, played by the British actress Sarah Gadon. Dad is played by Aaron Paul. And what happens on this picnic is that the boy nearly dies in a coma, and the dad disappears. So he's your big, mystery. Where's Dad? What happened to the boy? Did Dad push the boy off a cliff? What happened here? And, the cops show up, played by Molly Parker, among others. They're going to find out somehow whether the father was culpable here. And so you've got the creepy kid, you got the weirdo parents, you got the dogged cops, you got the psychologist who's actually starting to tumble for mom now that Dad's not around. Weird and unsatisfying film, The Ninth Life of Louis Drax, which is actually directed by a director I like, Alexandra Aja, and it was written by Max Minghella. I expected much more from this, and it was just kind of weird and odd. And speaking of weird and odd, let's wrap this rather low-key weekend up with Yoga Hosers. Not much to say about this, except it's the latest faux pas, self-indulgent waste of my time that's been put together by writer-director Kevin Smith. I mean, at one point in this guy's career, he was on a roll. He was great, and now he's content to, do his podcast, sit on his laurels, hang out with his friends, collect comics, and make these kind of ridiculous films that are kind of like awful home movies. And in fact, in this movie, two 15-year-old girls who love yoga up there in Manitoba, Canada, working in a convenience store, find themselves dealing with supernatural forces coming from the underground up there in Canada. And they have to deal with that character, Guy Lapointe, from the also terrible movie Tusk, a character played by Johnny Depp. And the girls are played by best friends, Harley Quinn Smith, that's Kevin Smith's daughter, and Lily Rose Depp, that's Johnny Depp's daughter. This thing is so self-indulgent, and it was excruciating to sit through. I suppose some people will get a kick out of it, and he still has support from some talented folks, such as, Haley Joel Osment, who's a good little character actor now. Justin Long is in this thing. Natasha Lyonne is in this thing. There's some talent. Tony Hale. I love Tony Hale from Veep. He shows up in this. What a waste of talent. And I don't know what the hell this guy's got to do to get back on track as a filmmaker. And maybe his fans will love its ridiculousness and its kind of, in-joke nature. But I thought that Yoga Hosers was a hose job.
Well, maybe Kevin Smith should look at his hip. Maybe there's an expiration date down there.
Maybe. I think you could be right about that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, yikes. What's going on with you? Did you catch any films? You watching any Tube?
No, I haven't watched any movies. Television, I should tell people to catch up. It's on BBC America with Ripper Street, which is now being produced by Amazon, oddly enough, and BBC America. That's how it wound up on BBC America. In Europe, it's on Amazon. And it's as always, a great show. Just a great show.
Love it.
Yeah.
And
I still say the most entertaining show on American television right now is America's Got Talent. Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess you could like that. Let me weigh in briefly on Ripper Street. It's the fourth season. Matthew McFadden plays a cop in Whitechapel after Jack the Ripper's murders in the late 1800s, and it's a period piece. And some great Jerome Flynn, who people love on Game of Thrones, is in this thing as his sort of second in command. It is a wonderful show, and I also want to check in and say FXX debuted Series 3 of my favorite sitcom on American television, certainly my favorite sitcom since Peep Show, You're the Worst, and I encourage people to check it out. It is dark.
I've checked it out.
Hey, you don't like it?
No.
I love it. It's dark, it's funny, it really captures a lot about the LA experience. We'll agree to disagree on that one.
No, I never agree to disagree.
Okay, fine. We'll just disagree. You can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster, and you can check out the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page, where Alex and I can do battle on your laptop anytime you want by clicking on the link, and you can also read stuff. And I guess we'll be back with hopefully better films next week.
Boy, it's just amazing. It's the holiday weekend. You would have thought they would have released some of their hot hitters, you know?
Well, maybe they thought Morgan would follow in Dad's footsteps, meaning Ridley Scott's with blockbuster success, but no.
Ah, boy. Well, thank you, Michael.
You bet.
And for the rest of you, there's more GABNet coming right up.